What do you think, Larry? I know that you were big on the Bill Belichick thing. It does sound like they at least reached out and kicked the tires there. Bill politely declined, but you wanted them to swing for the biggest offenses, the deepest offenses, and they did. And unfortunately, we're unable to land them. And now these are the guys that are left. If they go with an internal hire, would you be disappointed?
Well, I need, it needs to be a functional room, right? So it's like, I don't want to, it's like, what's going to make it a functional room? Like Steve Wilkes walked into a situation where he had guys who were on his staff that probably were more loyal to Shanahan than they were loyal to him. And I'm not saying that those guys stabbed him in the back, because I wouldn't even begin to suggest that. But that, it's like, those were Kyle's guys, not Wilkes's guys. Personally, if you said, okay, you've now viewed what the Niners have done, looked at all the scenarios, looked at all the candidates, what do you think's going to happen? I would almost bet anything that the job's going to go to Marquand Manuel. And why is that? Because Marquand Manuel is a really smart guy. He was an all SEC academic honor roll guy. He's got a bachelor's degree. He's got a master's degree. He's got a ton of experience. He's been the coordinator. He's worked with Kyle before. There's a trust. So much of this is about your trust factor. I think Marquand Manuel is going to be the guy at this point, because he's smart and because he's worked with Kyle before. He worked with Kyle. And go back and look, and I don't know for sure, but you guys said he was fired in Atlanta. I don't believe that was the case.
Yeah, Dan Quinn took over defensive play calling and fired him. That's how I remember it.
From what I'm reading, Manuel allowed his contract to expire after the 2018 season, and jumped to Philadelphia as the DB coach. So I don't know. I'm not sure if that's
a year. He did sit a year. He did sit a year. Maybe he wanted some time off,
Yeah. I mean, I don't know.
The defensive coordinator's salary for a year.
Or maybe he was fired, and I don't know when in the process, because that's the other thing about this that really makes it kind of difficult, is that this is not the beginning of the cycle. This is the end of the cycle. So there's who's available. That's why I was so convinced that they would reach out to Belichick, because what jobs does he have available to him, and what choices do they have available to them? And when you look at how limited both sides' choices were, to me, it was a no-brainer to reach out to him. But I can't believe that Bill wants to be on TV, but I guess he does. But if you said to me, bet everything you got on one of these candidates, I'm going Marquand Manuel, because he's done it. He's worked with Kyle before, and he's really, really smart guy.
Marquand Manuel was let go. The departure of Manuel, who did not have his 1-year contract renewed, was stunning. So that was the wording used in Atlanta.
So what I remember from their coordinator cycle is when Dan Quinn first was hired in 2015, I think the defensive coordinator was Richard Smith. Then in 2017, Richard Smith left after the Super Bowl, and Marquand Manuel became the defensive coordinator for 2 years. And then I remember they made the playoffs 1 year with Sark, and then the next year they had a down year. And then Dan Quinn took over defensive play calling duties, I think, the next year, and was the defensive coordinator. And then Raheem Morris became the defensive coordinator and then the interim head coach, because Dan Quinn didn't do a good job. But I remember their defense had a 3-year process. And so maybe Marquand Manuel wasn't let go, but I do remember thinking of it that way, because Dan Quinn took over the defense. He seized it from Marquand Manuel.
No, he was let go. I just read it. He was 100%. Okay. Yeah, they didn't renew his 1-year contract, and he sat out for a year.
His Wikipedia says that he let his contract expire. Now, at the end of the day, we may never really get the answer to any of these questions. You know what I mean? I don't know. Did he let his contract expire because he knew they didn't want him? Did they let him go because, he didn't want to do something that they wanted him to do? Was it performance based? Was it personality based? Was it monetary? I don't know. I really don't. But his wiki says he let his own contract expire after the 2018 season where they went 7-9. But you could be right.
Yeah, I
Same
think
difference.
either way,
he's available now,
yeah,
right?
he's available now, and I think he would be a fine candidate probably. All right, interesting. I mean, shoot, this whole thing is kind of dragged on a lot longer than I expected. I don't know what your guys' thoughts were, but I figured a week ago, last Saturday, that we were going to have an answer, and here we are coming up on the Saturday following, and we still don't have the answer. So,
Wait, did you
who
say
knows
who your
how
guy
long this
was?
is going to take?
I mean, I will say
Your
this
guy,
though.
Jesse?
Oh, go ahead.
No, I want Merritt. I think Merritt's great, and not because of what happened today or what we saw today. That's actually also intriguing, but just looking through his resume, it's funny because when they let Wilkes go, I immediately made a video and I said, "There's an obvious choice. He's in house. It's Daniel Bullocks," and I thought that was the route they were going to take in the very beginning, and maybe they still will. He just recently interviewed, but out of all the guys that I've seen that they've interviewed, to me, Merritt does have the most. I mean, his resume is the best. It stands out the most to me. And so just based off the resume, I would go with him. But, I don't know. I don't think any of them are going to blow my socks off by any means either way, no matter what they do at this point. So
I like the fact that this was not a 24-hour, 48-hour, 72-hour thing, because they have rules in place that you're supposed to look at 2 minority candidates from outside your organization. And if you name somebody within 72 hours, I don't care if you did an interview over the phone, and I know that you are doing an end around that rule. And I don't think that's in anybody's best interest. And I think this is an opportunity to do a fact-finding mission. I mean, you don't have anything of substance coming up that makes you hurry this up. I'd rather them take a longer look at more candidates and get the guy that they ultimately want than have somebody that they absolutely know go through some make-believe, we'll interview you to check boxes. I never like that. It's clear as day to me that there are many teams in the league that do that. So it doesn't bother me that this has taken a few weeks.
Yeah, I don't think it bothers me. But I am surprised by it. I did think it would last a little longer. I also think that there's probably something to them reaching out to Belichick and maybe saying, "Hey, man, it's yours if you want it. Take a couple days to sit on it," and then they started the process. I'm sure they would have. I'm sure they would have.
Here's my take on it. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, think about this from your profession. Okay. Like, so you're top of something. You're leading a group. The person who you revere and look at as the best ever at your profession is no longer working. Do you have the guts to then pick up the phone and call him and ask him to work for you?
Well, Vish, I mean, I think it depends on how hot to trot I am on him, if you know what I mean.
Well, somebody nailed it.
I tuned into your guys' show the other day, and Larry was like, Jesse's hot to trot on this offensive lineman. I was like, I don't know if I should be offended or feel good about what Larry just said. I don't even know what hot to trot means, but I like it.
I remember you coming in the comments to that. That was really funny. But the bigger question,
Jesse's hot to trot on Dave Merritt.
The bigger question is, I saw it in the chat today, is Merritt, Marquand, Manuel, Belichick, which one of these are booth guys? Which one of these are field guys? Because that's really the most important question we're not answering. I saw somebody throw it in the comments. It was a great joke. I had to add it.
Great question. Great question. Yeah. I think Merritt's a sideline guy. I mean, he seems to be. At least the pictures you can find on the internet, he's yelling on the sidelines. So maybe that's,